Here at BlockHeads Garage, we do a lot of different things here. So this week, we're going to be taking this grandpa truck, putting 6-inch lift on it, 35s, and pretty sweet oils. Stick around. All right, what we got here is a 6-inch rough country suspension lift. We thought we'd just go through and show you some of the parts and pieces that we'll be using to put on this truck here. We'll start off, and what I think was kind of cool about this kit, instead of a regular block, we had these fabricated blocks that actually bolt in like a normal block would, but then they have extra U-bolts that clamp to the leaf spring that takes out some of the axle wrap and torque twist that you get out of a traditional block setup. We have our differential drop brackets, our skid plate. Some of the options that we added to this kit is we got the heavy duty tie rod sleeve. You've probably all seen the videos of the Hummers and the trucks breaking the front tie rods and pointing the front tires together. And since this is going to be a highway truck, we added a steering stabilizer to the kit as well.
Another unique feature of the rough country kit are the torsion bar mounts, which actually keep your torsion bars up high and close to the frame. Keeps them from being low and rubbing on stuff when you're out in the hills and in the dirt and stuff.
Back in the day of when they just started making lift kits for this, there was brackets for everything. Brackets to drop the upper arms, and let me tell you, those kits were crap. Everybody nowadays uses a drop spindle. This keeps your upper control arm and your steering all in the factory position. It maintains the factory geometry as much as possible. It's a really, really good way to do these kits. This is a really beefy unit, all cast iron and heavy.
We've also got some new lower suspension mounts. These are going to drop the lower arms and keep everything in line so you get your standard geometry with your suspension as it moves through its travel. We also got new front and rear shocks and some updated sway bar mounts that'll keep the sway bar in its stock location but still attached to the proper space in the arms.
Another thing you see here is we have our CV spacers. This kit does actually widen out the front end a little bit, and if you haven't noticed, Chevrolet pickups typically are a little wider in the front than the rear, and that's why we decided to add on the 2-inch spacers here. Keep the truck nice and square. We've all seen those trucks with really wide front ends, the tires are hanging out, the back ones are still tucked in. We didn't want that kind of look, so we decided to add on the spacers. And while we're on the subject of wheels, our guy here, the owner of this truck, picked a set of 17 by 9 fuel throttles. I think really should set this truck off. I really kind of like how this wheel looks. I like the matte black, not too shiny. I really like the black wheel. And we showed you the parts and pieces, and tomorrow we'll get to show you the install. All right, last night we showed you the parts that we were going to be putting on this truck. And so far we've got it up on jack stands. Make sure you got it in a nice secure spot. We put it on jack stands, because that's what most of you guys will be doing in your driveways, doing this kit. We do have a lift next door, but it's cold over there, and being winter in Montana, I don't want to put up with that. So up to this point, we've released our torsion bars. Be very careful doing that. Get the proper tool. There's a lot of tension there. It can hurt you. Basically, we're just going to disassemble most of this. I'll show you the key points as we go along, but pretty much you're just going to unbolt all this. The instructions are actually really good in this kit, so follow them. Has your tool sizes, what you're going to need, and all that. So let's get started. So Irv had to work today, so I got my man Wyatt down here giving me a hand. He's going to show us how to pull this CV shaft out. We've already disassembled the other side, and now we're disassembling this side, getting the spindle and the CV and the whole whole shebang out of the way. So go for it, man. Got our knuckle out of our both sides. These things can be a bit of a pain. Rust gets in here and they build up and they seize. So it takes a little bit of hammering, but they'll come loose, a little bit of spray, it'll be all right. So we're going to transfer our original wheel bearing over here to our new knuckle from Rough Country. I always would take and put a little bit of anti-seize in the bore here. That'll keep it from seizing up if you ever need to replace these wheel bearings later on in the life of the truck. And be careful with this stuff because it gets absolutely everywhere. It's probably already on my pillow at home. Kind of line everything up. I'm gonna flip this big boy over. Make sure we got our bolts lined up. And our dust shield. We already put some blue Loctite on these. Throw them bad boys in. And I believe these torque to 133 foot-pounds, but check your instructions before you do so. All right, so we've got our suspension disassembled. We've got our differential completely unbolted. It's resting on our jack safely. You don't want that to fall on you. But we've got to get rid of this bracket here. So we're going to take our Sawzall and put it in between here and cut those welds off, get this bracket out of the way, then we can drop it down and proceed with our lift. It's kind of tight under here. I'm going to take our trusty Sawzall and wear our safety glasses. Scratch that. We're going to go back to our favorite tool around here, the Matabo. After much aggravation, we got our differential out. Just wanted to show you some of the modifications you're going to have to make to get this back into our truck. First off, there's a mount that's up here that you'll see whenever you pull it out. We chopped that bad boy off, pretty much right smooth with the top of the diff. We have to grind down some of the cooling fins over here on this side. It's not an exact science on how far you got to go. You may have to test fit it back and forth. And the last thing before we stick it on is we have our new differential mount. It comes with a bushing. Picks up these 3 bolts. Make sure you lock tight it when you put it back together. So we're going to get this thing back in the truck and keep it. So Herb decided to show up today, so we immediately stuck him underneath the truck.
Thank you.
Where he belongs. Alright, I wanted to show you guys the rear suspension before we got the tires all bolted up and where you could see what we did here. This is that block design I was telling you about last night. We've got our 2 U-bolts here that keeps us all clamped together, prevents the axle wrap that we get out of a typical block setup. Here's our spacers we put on to even us up with the front. Torque these just like you would a wheel. Whenever you go back and retorque your wheels, take a wheel off and retorque these again. Definitely don't want those to come loose. Basically we just got our, longer shocks. Had to do a little bit of tweaking on the brake line to get that to stretch far enough, but other than that, rear end went pretty easy. Alright, here's our finished product with the front. Note our heavy duty sleeves that we we've added to our tie rods. There's a smear of antifreeze I was telling you guys about earlier. You can see how our torsion bar drop brackets work with the integrated bump stop right here, extension. Want you to note, if you go to do this, how you can't run your brake lines and your ABS wire the factory way. I ran them together, kind of bent this bracket out and slide them around a little bit, but got me the slack I need here and here where it turns. But other than that, you can pretty much follow the directions completely and you'll have this done. Alright, we're 10 hours in, we're all covered in dirt and we're tired, but the suspension's together and we're done for the night.
Tomorrow it's going to go in. I'm going to get it aligned, get the tires mounted, and we'll have wheels and tires on this baby in just a few hours. Alright, so we got the truck back from the alignment shop today. We got the new wheels and tires mounted. We went with the Hankook Dynapro MTs, nice mud tread pattern. We had to do a little clearancing on the truck to make sure that the tires wouldn't rub on anything. Had to trim a little bit of the bottom bumper here. Had to remove the mud flap from the back side of the fender well and tuck the inner fender in so that it wouldn't catch on the tires at extreme steering angles. We took her for a ride. Ride's really nice, smooth, comfortable, not too rough. We've retorqued the wheels and we're ready to take it back.